Good evening. I welcome you to this week's Friday Study Circle. And here we reflect on the words of the masters and mystics, with special focus on the words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So I would request whoever would want to go first, if they would like to share anything they read or would like to discuss, please unmute and we can begin with the circle. Thank you. Captain, since you're already unmuted, would you like to go first today?
Yeah, I can do that.
Please, thank you.
Nowadays, I had been going through the synthesis of yoga. So there are 4 aids for achieving the yoga siddhi. Means the full-fledged yoga siddhi. Siddhi means like Buddha has attained that Buddha. So for yoga siddhi, there are 4 principles. That's what Sri Aurobindo has mentioned in this. The first one of that is for knowing the knowledge of truth and principles, powers, and processes. So first instrument is Shastra. Shastra is a Sanskrit word, Shastra. So the first instrument is this. So I was reading that Shastra, and probably that incarnate word you can the paragraph starts with the usual agency of this revealing. The usual agency of
Just share
this
my.
revealing.
I didn't see that. The usual agency of the, right?
Title is the 4 aids. 4 aids. The usual agency of the revealing is the word. Of the revealing is the word.
Revealing. It's not somehow coming.
Relieving is R-E-V-A-L-I-N.
Taru,
Revealing,
reveal,
actually.
revealing.
It is revealing.
Revealing.
Yeah, it is revealing.
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 Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't see it.
No, I think you can type the 4 eights. The chapter's name is 4 eights.
Okay.
Synthesis of yoga. Yeah, I think you can type that also. Yeah, it is since I don't know the
I
format.
just refreshed because.
Yeah, it is a synthesis of yoga's chapter. It is actually 4 eights. The chapter name is 4 eights. Yeah. Yeah, this one, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So the usual agency of this revealing is the word. The thing heard is Shruta. The word may come us from within. It may come to us from without. But in either case, it is only an agency for setting the hidden knowledge to work. The word within may be the utterance of the inmost soul in us, which is always open to the divine, or it may be the word of the secret and universal teacher who is seated in the hearts of all. There are rare cases in which none other is needed. For all the rest of the yoga is an unfolding under that constant touch and guidance. The lotus of the knowledge discloses itself from within by the power of irradiating effulgence which proceeds from the dweller in the lotus of the heart. Great indeed, by few are those to whom self-knowledge from within is the sufficient and who do not need to pass under the dominant influence of a written book or a living teacher. So everything either maybe from a great teacher or from within. It may be it may come to us from outside source or from inside. So that heart, that shruta is the particular word. Here that word W has been made as capital. This revealing is that word. The word may come us from within or it may come us from without. So that awakening has to start. Once that awakening, it may be by uh, external focus or from the external source or from within. So behind the heart, as per Upanishad, behind the heart we have got the lotus. So that Atma or whatever we call it, so it is located in that. So that petals after petals, it opens up, and so that revelation process has been explained in this. So the word within may be the utterance of the inmost soul in us, which is always open to the divine. So then yoga actually means connection, or so that connection takes place from inmost soul to the divine. So the direct connection. So once you are directly connected, so then we are disconnected from this external world. In fact, so that Sharanagati takes place, means total surrender, because at the time we do not know where are we actually. So we all our ego and buddhi, everything gets dissipated. It is no longer visible from this time onwards. So that is the yoga. So the one of the instrument is sutta, which has been explained out of the four aids. So that much, so no, any reflections?
Yes, any reflections? Chitraji, anything to share? And then I'll also see.
Yeah, fortunately, actually from the first week of August, actually, I have joined a class about synthesis of yoga. It is taken by one of the young lady like Taru and Monica, called Divyanshi from Auroville, actually. This is the chapter we are taking up, actually. Same chapter what you read now. Yeah. So it is all real coincidence, actually. So we are going through this chapter line by line, and also a sort of, we also can give our what we feel about these words, or really they are telling us, actually. So for me, I explained like this because mostly no, maybe from within it is even Shirvindo also mentioned that no, only few are those to whom self knowledge from within will reveal itself. But for most of the people, it will come from outside, or from sastras, or from any scripture, or from any other person who is following the path. Like that only it will come, no, actually. So that is the thing. This para is explaining that, actually. The word within may be the utterance of the inmost soul in us. I feel this will happen slowly for most, actually. as you said, petal by petal, it will open. Even the surrender will come only in the process. Even if it comes, it will go on. It will go on. We won't, surrender fully also. So this petal by petal opening also, it will be very slow actually. Yeah, in further paragraphs, Shrimda explained that also, how it will be very slow for many. Maybe it will be very quick for some actually, but everything leads to the same goal in the end actually. In the next paragraph, he explains like that. And this is my reflection for this. The third week. Tomorrow I have the class in the morning. The same chapter we are going through. Thank you for bringing this. Yes.
She is the one who's taking Savitri painting also.
Yeah, I know. Divyanshi, yes. Yeah.
They're a young
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. And the special thing is, I also started Synthesis of Yoga only recently actually. So started reading. So immediately the class came. So I joined. Yeah. It's all wonderful thing.
I didn't know it was starting, otherwise I would have joined.
I think you can join. Yeah. It is on Saturday mornings. Yeah.
Only once a week.
Only once a week. You can join on Wednesdays also if you like, but I join only on Saturdays.
So about this, when I was listening to it, I was reminded of two gurus. One was, Osho, who has so often said, that I don't tell you anything. You just hear what you already know. And I think that is, also the significance of the chantings and the mantras, right? Because they say that something inside you knows. So just let the vibrations and all be around you, and that would do its work magically. So, it's just like, I feel it's where you are, right? Like how open you are, what you are looking for. Like if you're just looking at materialistic things, that's all you'll see. And if you're just looking at subtle things, if you're just aware, not just looking, but if you're aware of them, in everything, something new comes out. It's like really beautiful how it works. Today, only, something a little related to this, and Captain had also mentioned, I'm these days reading a book called Sadhana, A Guide to Sales Mastery. So in that, there was a small thing that at first, the inner consciousness seems to be the dream, and the outer, the waking reality. Afterwards, the inner consciousness becomes the reality, and the outer is felt by many as a dream or a delusion, or else as something superficial and external. So it's like, really beautiful. And so I was just reminded of that too when he was sharing. And also, the second master was Dattatreya. I'm sure most of us would have heard of him. You know how he said that, I don't know, he had, I think, 24 gurus, right? Like everything kind of, according to him, taught him something, because it's not outside. It doesn't have to come from outside. It's just, you just become aware, right? Like it's like a trigger that somebody, press this and suddenly you're like, oh, this is also, yeah, that's true. It's like very, I don't know, beautiful and calming and reassuring to read these words, that it's like a constant, unfolding. And there was also something I had wanted to share, which I'll do later on, which was talking about the patience on this path and how we think that it should happen in this time. So it would be a good connection to this. But yeah, so it's very beautifully, visually also the lotus, how it opens up. So again, yeah, that's what came to me. Nandini, would you like to share anything on this? Yeah.
Mother says, no, you really understand and imbibe what you already know. What
Yeah.
your inside a psychic already knows, your soul is already aware of, that is what you, that knowledge was already there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, Nandini, would you do you have anything to share on this?
No, this is a totally new subject for me. So I think
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And do you have anything to share with us today? Would you like to go next or later on or something?
No, so actually, we've just moved homes here,
Oh, okay.
and it was so. I mean, so yesterday there was this, in fact, yeah, yesterday and today, I was clearing. I mean, one part of the library at home, and I found so many of mother's books, and it felt so good because I found the sunlit path. I found living words, and the small and those very tiny thin books that she has on every topic. And I said there, so I said I was sorting it out, and I was sort of looking at what was there, and all these sort of just flooded and came out. And I said, my God, you collect them over the years, and sometimes you don't end up reading. You have the intention, but sometimes you just don't, right? But I think this is sort of, I would like to start that again. And yeah, so I kept all these books aside, and I did quite a bit of clutter free and removed books that I knew that I wasn't going to probably read again. And yeah, so that's where I am.
Okay, so probably next time maybe we'll hear again something from you.
Yes, so something.
Okay, great.
So I found quite a bit. In fact, the one on she has written, I think, on education, part 1, part 2, part 3.
Mhm,
But yeah, I said I'll start with the slightly more easier ones and
mhm.
get to that. Yeah.
Okay. So, Chitraji, would you like to go next?
Actually, I read one of the small thing, but it is in the collected works of Mother,
Okay.
volume 9. It is, I think it's mentioned 325. That must be the page, no? Collected works of
Yeah,
Mother.
if you just tell me the sentence, I think the best.
Yeah, a single moment.
A single moment. Yeah.
No, actually, no. It must. It is coming. I don't know. It is from.
Yeah. After a single.
Yeah, I'll read. I see a single moment, a single impulse of deep and true love.
A single impulse.
Moment, a single impulse of deep and true love.
Yeah, found.
Yeah, correct. An instant of the understanding which lies in the divine grace brings you much closer to the goal than all possible explanations. Even a kind of refined sensation, subtle, clear, luminous, acute, which penetrates deep, opens the door for you more than the subtlest explanations. This is a bookmark actually from from All India Magazine. I don't know, when I read this, I really wondered actually. Nowadays, I got an urge to read Life Divine and Synthesis of Yoga. That urge also, I mean, because of the grace, I got the urge. But when I read this, yeah, this is also very, very true. A single moment, a single impulse of deep and true love. This we will touch. I mean, everyone will have that single moment of true love, no, actually. An instant of the understanding which lies in the divine grace. How beautifully it is said, brings you much closer to the goal than all possible explanations. It is very true. No? Next one, even a kind of refined sensation. Not only we need not, make a difference between that spirituality, ordinary material thing. Nothing is there. No, a kind of refined sensation, subtle, clear, luminous, acute, which penetrates deep, opens the door. Maybe seeing a small, that infant child or a flower, that also will bring that refined sensation, no, actually. Subtle, clear, luminous, acute, which penetrates deep, opens the door for you more than the subtlest explanations. This is the thing I got. I felt like that, yeah, this is more valuable than anything, yeah. But our mind, no, it wants more and more. That is always there, that urge is there, no, actually. Yeah, that is the thing I read. Only very small for these lines, not fully, but maybe we can read in what context she said this, I don't know. Yeah, in this new substance which is spreading and acting in the world, there is a warmth, a power, a joy so intense that all intellectual activities seems cold and dry beside it. And that is why the less one talks about these things, the better it is. Okay. A single moment, a single impulse of deep and true love, an instant of the understanding which lies in the divine grace brings you much closer to the goal than all possible explanations. Yeah. You all can reflect upon it. Yeah, it is.
Should we go a little further, and if we carry the experience?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, even a kind of refined sensation, subtle, clear, luminous, acute, which penetrates deep, opens the door for you more than the subtlest explanations. And if we carry the experience still further, it seems that when one comes to the work of transformation of the body, when some cells of the body more ready than others, more refined, more subtle, more plastic, are able to feel concretely the presence of the divine grace, the divine will, the divine power. This knowledge that is not intellectual, but a knowledge by identity. When one feels this in the cells of the body, then the experience is so total, so imperative, so living, concrete, tangible, real that everything else seems a vain dream. Here I have a doubt actually. Mother is telling, yeah, it is not intellectual, of course, definitely, but only after, reading these writings, that is also intellectual. Only after, only after going through
Definitely.
these writings and understanding it, we can know, no, it is not through logic and reason. Only after understanding the writings, no? Yeah.
I think,
That
how
much
they say that first everything has to be learned and then, unlearned, like the whole
unlearned.
Vedic
Okay.
neti
Yeah.
neti, that
Yeah.
use your brain, because, there's something within me which is so proud of
Yeah.
intellect. So that
Yeah.
has to be given all the freedom that, yes, try, give it your best.
Yeah.
And when it is done that, no, I can't, then I think the new thing would happen.
Yeah. Correct.
Otherwise, it would say, Arey, I would have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Correct. This remind me of actually mother when first she met Sri Aurobindo, no? She surrendered herself completely. Everything vanished, it seemed. So far, she learned, everything vanished. She became like a child, she told actually. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this. Yeah.
And so we may say that it is truly when the circle is complete and the two extremities touch, when the highest manifests in the most material, that the experience will be truly conclusive. It seems that one can never truly understand until one understands with one's body. I think she must be talking about the supramental consciousness here.
Yeah, must be. Then about the transformation of the cells, I think, because
Yeah,
in the second
supramental.
paras he
Yeah.
mentioned, no,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is why we should read with the
She's
full thing,
mentioning
no.
about plant life there, Taru.
Mm.
Go above.
This is where it starts, no?
Acha.
Yes, this is
Was,
like again, like he was saying that the body has to be transferred. Like it, she says here that the most difficult way to approach this supramental life is intellectual activity.
you
Right
always
now,
begin with the intellect.
yeah,
Somewhere mother mentions that you begin everything, every study with the mind, with the impression of gathering knowledge,
mm,
and it later transforms itself when in silence to something which becomes a feeling, an ehsas. She said it somewhere. I have read it very concretely because I used to always say that most of us, we all try to read at a mental plane, especially when we begin our journeys on the path. Every spiritual book that we land on in our hands is, let me see, what does he have to say about this? What does he say about this? What does he say about that? But to perceive and to imbibe and to feel it and then implement it is where I think the true mental is left, and then the feel comes in. Like I read something very interesting which I will read today on aspiration in plants, and how they aspire, and we underestimate them. Aspiration in the human being, ours is a very verbal greedy aspiration, but plants is not. They actually show us aspiration
yeah,
and without any mental activity.
mm,
So
mm. This also reminds me of, how they talk about the Gyan Marga and the Bhakti Marg, right? So here also, like, everybody says that Gyan, I think there were big debates about how Gyan Marg is supposed to be superior. But then it was, kind of contradicted that no, like, because Gyan Marg leads you to Bhakti. Once you have done everything, that's where you end, and then that's the thing. So the Bhakti, like the heart, it's just knowing that you are nothing, because in Gyan Marg, there's a lot of ego, right? Like I will know, and that my I will lead me to him. So that's also, very interesting. Should we just read the whole thing once so that, because I think we read it in bits and pieces. Yeah. Nandini, would you like to read this from the screen?
Beginning?
As the beginning, is that? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. As the beginnings of the supramental life, which must be the next realization in the unfolding of the universe, develop, perhaps not in a very obvious way, but very surely. It becomes more and more obvious that the most difficult way to approach this supramental life is intellectual activity. So we're going ahead, right?
Yes, please.
So over here, when he says more obvious that the most difficult way to approach this supramental life is intellectual activity.
Yes.
Is that something, are we discussing that or are we going ahead?
No, we are going ahead. We have already discussed this. This is
Right. Yeah. Okay. So any more, I thought.
Sorry, I should not have maybe highlighted that confused. Okay, move. Yeah.
It could be said that it is much more difficult to pass from the mental to the supramental life than to pass from a certain psychic emotion in life. Something that is like a reflection, a luminous emanation of the divine presence in matter, to the supramental consciousness. It is much easier to pass from that into the supramental consciousness than to pass from the highest intellectual speculation to any supramental vibration. Perhaps it is the word that misleads us. Perhaps it is because we call it supramental that we expect to reach it through a higher intellectual mental activity. But the fact is very different. With this very high, very pure, very noble intellectual activity, one seems to move towards a kind of cold, powerless abstraction, a frozen and icy light which is surely very remote from life and still further away from the experience of the supramental reality. In this new substance which is spreading and acting in the world, there is a warmth, a power, a joy so intense that all intellectual activity seems cold and dry beside it. And that is why the less one talks about these things, the better it is. A single moment, a single impulse of deep and true love, an instant of the understanding which lies in the divine grace brings you much closer to the goal than all possible explanations. Even a kind of refined sensation, subtle, clear, luminous, acute, which penetrates deep, opens the door for you more than the subtlest explanations. And if we carry the experience still further, it seems that when one comes to the work of transformation of the body, when some cells of the body, more ready than the others, more refined, more subtle, more plastic, are able to feel concretely the presence of the divine grace, the divine will, the divine power, this knowledge that is not intellectual, but a knowledge by identity. When one feels this in the cells of the body, then the experience is so total, so imperative, so living, concrete, tangible, real that everything else seems a vain dream. And so we may say that it is truly when the circle is complete that the two extremities touch. And the two extremities touch when the highest manifests in the most material, that the experience will be truly conclusive. It seems that one can never truly understand until one understands with one's body.
Yes, Nandini, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's such a such an intense and deep reflection also, no, for one to even to reflect on it, for at least for myself.
This thing that this knowledge that is not intellectual, it's so counterintuitive of how we have been told things or how we take things to be. And how, like, I think I like to use this basically for my own understanding mostly, that how there's like, we live on X and the Y plane. And we try to go, further and further and higher, thinking that the further I'll go, I'll find it. And this thing is of a different realm, a different plane, right? A Z-axis, which we don't access. And that is why a lot of times we feel frustrated, right? Because the more we seem to be wanting to know, how I think it's Rumi who says that the more I know, the further I get, something like this. because with the mind, it seems that only. So again, you know how it's like one of the things that is really appreciated in Sri Aurobindo's yoga is that how he didn't exclude the body. Today I was listening to a talk by Alokda in that he was, saying that because somehow from different levels, a lot of the mystics got ahead in the other realms, but how the body was so badly ignored, because that is kind of, maybe I don't know whether it's misunderstood, but in the Vedantic way, conventionally, you're just told to, ignore it. And he was saying, I mean, that's at least what I understood. He was saying that that is the reason why a lot of mystics had like really serious bodily diseases, like say a cancer, because the body wasn't ready to receive the things it received. And yet here, it's very important, they say, to, all the parts of us have to be in the light. It's really very beautifully explained here. And what, again, I find it very funny that how it's saying that it's so living, concrete, tangible, everything else seems like a dream. And yet it's so hard to explain, right? Like this is real. And yet if somebody asks you, that why do you want this or this? And most of the time, if it's, related to your depth, you'll be just like, I don't know, because like because explanations seem very vain. And yet it says that this is the most tangible, real, and you feel it. And yet you can't explain it because it's beyond words. And the true circle, how the highest is supramind, the lowest probably would be the body consciousness, the body cells, that when they complete, when the two extremities touch, it is then that the highest manifests in the most material. Yeah. So anyone else who would want to reflect on anything, I can move it and then we can move further. Thank you so much. I think we can skip to this. Jyotsna ji, would you want to share what you wanted to share about the plant aspiration?
I don't know. I was quite fascinated. It's a very small paragraph, but very nice. Aspiration in plants. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yes. Have you never watched a forest with all its countless trees and plants simply struggling to catch the light, twisting and trying in 100 possible ways just to be in the sun? That is precisely the feeling of aspiration in the physical. The urge, the movement, the push towards the light. Plants have more of it in their physical being than men. Their whole life is a worship of light. Light is, of course, the material symbol of the divine, and the sun represents, under material conditions, the supreme consciousness. The plants have felt it quite distinctly in their own simple, blind way. Their aspiration is intense if you know how to become aware of it. On the plane of matter, they are the most open to my influence, which is mother's. I can transmit a state of consciousness more easily to a flower than to man. It is very receptive. Though it does not know how to formulate its experience to itself because it lacks a mind. But the pure psychic consciousness is instinctive to it. When therefore you offer flowers to me, their condition is almost always an index to yours. There are persons who never succeeded in bringing a fresh flower to me. Even if the flower is fresh, it becomes limp in their hands. Others, however, always bring fresh flowers and even revitalize drooping ones. If your aspiration is strong, your flower offerings will be fresh. And if you are receptive, you will be also very easily able to absorb the message I put in the flowers I give to you. I give you. When I give them, I give you states of consciousness. The flowers are the mediums, and it all depends on your receptivity whether they are effective or not. I was fascinated by this simply because it, in such a simple way, she tells us how we should be. We are nuts trying to use our mind and, conjecturing all the time we should be like this and like that and behave this way and that way. And she says, you just turn towards the divine. That's it. It was very, very joyful for me.
Chitra ji, I think a few weeks back had shared something similar. And that was my first time I had heard about this thing. And she had explained it exactly like this, that how when you offer the flowers to me, I know where you stand and how that is a reflection of you. So that was very beautiful. And here also it says so clearly that, yeah, it's like, when we
Yeah.
see things, it's like we have no idea what it means, right? Like if I had not read this before, like Chitraji told me, I used to at times wonder that why so much significance, of flowers and the books. And Monica, sometimes she loves to draw these flowers with their message. She has a book on them, and I used to wonder. I wanted to ask her, I
Yeah.
never did. Yes, Chitraji, please.
Yeah, actually, there is a flower book is there. Actually, flowers and significance. Whole lot of philosophy is there. Actually, mother used to write a meaning, very deep meaning for everything, not only for that flower. With that meaning, she will explain the whole lot of the integral yoga. Even only that book is enough to follow the integral yoga principles for us. Actually, so I used to wonder in this path, actually in the integral yoga path, there are a lot of varied things to follow. One can follow Sri Aurobindo's full writings or mother's writings or this flowers book actually, or only with the flowers and keeping the flowers with the meaning to mother, that will take you further actually. So there are a lot of things really. It's wonderful.
It's called
Yeah.
Flowers and Their Messages.
Yeah, flowers and the messages. It
I
is by
have the book.
yeah, it is. There are so many things, no, in that you read actually. Yeah,
Yes,
for
I read, but then I forget equally easily. I only remember that a pink rose is the flower of surrender
surrender. Yeah,
because that is my aim in life. So that I remember. And
yeah,
a pink rose has always fascinated me. But I read. And when somebody in the ashram, when I used to get a flower in mother's room or salon or something, I used to keep looking there. What is the significance of this? Go to the book and look. Because in most ashram guest houses, this book is mandatory. It is there.
yeah.
I'll get it. I'll show you.
This also is really interesting, na, how it said that uh, there are others who can revitalize drooping ones, right? Like how your energy
Yeah,
to give energy to the flowers.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think it might be nice that, because we all also forget So if Jyotsna ji has the book, and I'm sure Chitra ji, you would have it too. I don't know about Captain Kara, but maybe we can share about a flower every time. Maybe we can start with that or end.
Yeah, that we can
Because
do. It would be very
one a
nice.
week we might remember then, right?
Yeah. My email ID's name is Jasmine because I love Jasmine. Because
Yeah, you
it
would share
denotes,
that one.
yeah, it denotes the purification in the heart, no? Yeah. That receptivity itself, it is gladiolus, that flower actually.
Yeah,
That
Jyotsna ji, you are on mute. Yeah,
It
yeah.
turned yellow because I bought it in 1992. But this is the cover. Now the covers keep changing.
Yeah, I have this book.
Every star is there. And
Actually,
it
it
was
is by
patterned by
Tara Joga.
itself. My only complaint it is doesn't have colorful pictures.
Yeah.
They are all in black and white.
Yeah. But the color will be there written. You can read, the color will be written there, actually. You can see the color of the flower by reading it.
Mother wrote,
Yeah.
life must blossom like a flower
Like a flower.
opening itself to the divine.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful book.
Yeah.
So then I think today we saw two flowers, right? Like you said, pink rose means surrender, and
Yeah.
jasmine represents purification. So
Yeah. Purification. That
So
rose
Jyotsna ji
also,
will
that yeah, that rose which give nice smell, no? That rose.
Mhm.
Other roses without smell, they all indicate all human passions change into divine love. First time when I came to Mother, no, I memorized all the meanings like mantras. I used to call the flowers only by that name, actually. That's why it is there in my memory. Yeah, all other roses are called, all human passions change into divine love, actually. But this pink rose with a smell, very good smell, it is called surrender. And that tiny pink roses, Chinese rose, it's called tiny pink roses. It is called detailed surrender.
I happily read, look, and then I forget.
So
Once the
Jyotsna ji,
next
while you
thing
were
comes, I
gone,
forget.
we were sharing that we can discuss one flower each week so that we can all remember. That would be
Yeah, yeah.
easy go
Yeah, we
through. So
can bring that.
we can
Yeah.
get this
Yeah.
yeah, every week. Yeah. Captain, would you like? Do you have anything else to share with us today?
About the forest or this thing, about the trees and plants. So, I heard that the Mayavadi is a place where Vivekananda, son Captain Xavier, he was from England, and Mrs. Xavier. So they came, they were retired defense officer. So they came along with Swami Vivekananda there because he was delivering lectures there. So they loved it and they wanted to follow him. So they came to India. So then he gave them a chance. Because life is short. So Vivekananda has to do a lot of job. So he says that you search a place in foothills of Himalaya where there will not be any photograph or any idol or anything of this nature, but there will be only this meditation or yoga that should be practiced there. So so I read before that how was the condition there and all this. So it was a very thick jungle actually on the foothills of Himalayas, and the trees are so huge and tall. Probably for years together they had been searching for the sunlight, and they kept growing straight actually. And even the sunlight doesn't reach the mud where the roots are actually. They have never seen sunlight. But it is so dark, so dark. Even in the daytime also you have seen where outside there is sunlight, but there inside it is looking like night. And that small insects, they normally create noise in the night. So that sort of noise is there. And from the guest house up to the place where that meditation and all this takes place, and there is a library where Swami Vivekananda did that meditation. So that place, they open it up to dining hall. There are about 300 accommodation available there, and all these people, they go there only for half an hour. That dinner time, the street lights are put on, switched on, because the nature they do not want to disturb, because there are some birds and insects, they get disturbed if you are putting the street light. So even the lights, they have been controlled, like only for that time only it will be, and rest also, whether it is a day or night, it will be very difficult to understand, that sort of situation there. And there is no noise of any vehicles or anything of that sort. And it's a beautiful place actually. So so I was remembering that when they are saying that, they are always, they are totally dedicated to sun. Other than that, there's total surrender. They're 100% surrender if you have to learn. So that is from the trees and the plants. And the sun is the life, whether it is day or night, the sun is there. It's only the other part of the world, Earth, they are getting the sunlight, but sun is there. We are getting some sort of thing, maybe through moon or some other stars or anything of this nature, than the family. So I was thinking that even the earth, we call that sun, moon, and all these heavenly bodies. Even the earth is heavenly body, though we don't remember in the morning that we are also in heaven. It is a heavenly body in the earth surviving. And sun is taking care of all the lives. Where there is a life, without sun, there is no life. It is the light actually, the light which it emits. So which we had been by yoga, and we wanted to get connected, that super consciousness or whatever. It's only through yoga is the connection, means we get connected, switch on the light. So light, so we are totally disconnected, and we read few pages here and there, and that ego is not allowing us to move ahead. And I know so much, that sort of thing keeps coming automatically. It comes actually, because maybe when you started learning in the schools and all, that was the regard, rather, okay, you have learned by heart, or can you tell this? So probably that has gone into a habit form. So anything like yoga also, we have to practice over a period of time. It may take a lot of time, and maybe from the previous birth, if we have some sort of credit points, then probably in this birth, so it may be probably easier, or suddenly we can achieve something. So otherwise, the mechanical consciousness or spiritual consciousness, I was reading in the internet itself, the spiritual consciousness, I saw it's a very big, big subject, the spiritual consciousness. And there they have classified this, explained in our human being, that spiritual consciousness, it has become 7 types of consciousness. The 7 types are, one is state of waking consciousness. So when we are waking, we are not sleeping or dreaming. So there is a state of waking consciousness, first one. Then second is deep sleep. We do not know when what is happening outside, and deep sleep. Then the dreaming consciousness and subconscious state of mind. Then the transcendental consciousness. There is the 4th one. And 5th one has been given the cosmic consciousness or witness consciousness. And 6th one is God consciousness. And 7th, the last, the top, is unity consciousness. So then only the unity, that single one, or Advaita, we call it, that there is no two. Like Jesus Christ says, the Father and me are the one. Means there is no father and there is no son, actually. There is only one. So that is that unity consciousness. It is there. So these are the consciousness. These are for spiritual development. So these are the types of consciousness which we are having, and through the process we pass through every day. So whether we know it or not, whether know is not, it is there. Like the sunlight in the night, we don't feel that sun is there, but actually sun is there. So we may not be getting that much of heat what we get in the daytime, but it is there, heat is there. And somebody scientifically proved that if for 24 hours, if the sun is not there at all, then everything will be frozen. Like the life will not be there at all. Within 24 hours, everything will be so solid that it will be like metal solid actually. Human life, trees, plants, Mr. Total life will totally go off. So without sun, the life is not there. The sun, even in the morning, when we look at the sun, morning sun, that the stotra, that mantra is there, no? Java kusuma sankasam kashyapyang mandati. So if you know the meaning, I try to understand the meaning and all. So we are saying that, say, because of you only we are here, but we don't remember you. We don't remember that day. Even those who are, say, we are reading some books or anything, during daytime, in the sunlight we are reading. So your this thing, eyes and all, they will remain intact. But we'll switch on that electric light, or we'll study in the night and all this. This sort of artificial, these are all artificial light. So that is not giving us any. And whereas in the sunlight, like normally the birds and other animals, they have got adjusted their timing with the sun. When the sun rises, they also rise, and when the sun sets, and they also go to bed actually. So that sort of thing we have to the consciousness, the level of consciousness. We can there are methods by which we can improve upon this consciousness. So these sort of thoughts are coming when this plant's growth and life was being discussed. This crossing the mind actually. This there's something has been told. So there are a lot of thought process. They said about, say, for 50 to 75 thousands of thought process our mind in a day, 24 hours thought process. So these are the thoughts which are crossing the mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. You know, when you were describing how the sun is always there, I was reminded of, how mother says that I am always there and it's you who turns your back on me. So similarly, the earth moves and we leave the sun, right? We can never say the sun left me. I left the sun. So just that visual came to me when you were sharing that. Yeah.
And also regarding the intellectual activity, mother is telling, no, but at the same time, mother insisted upon reading Sri Aurobindo's works, switching off the mind and read through heart. Actually, it is also there because very, very little I feel like that. Actually, when I read Synthesis of Yoga or Life Divine, my English is not a very good English, but when I read it, no, something is understanding inside. I feel that actually, really. That is a thing, yeah. It is not through mind. Definitely through mind, I can't understand. Yeah, it is that intellectual activity. Maybe if we read through mind, it is really intellectual activity. But yeah, that point came to me.
So I'll quickly share something that I had read, which I really like, and then we'll call it a Friday. So this is from the Sunlit Path, and the topic is aspire without impatience. Aspire intensely, but without impatience. The difference between intensity and impatience is very subtle. Intensity and impatience. It is all a difference in vibration, but it makes all the difference intensely, but without impatience. That's it. One must be in that state. For a very long time, one must be satisfied with inner results in one's personal and individual reactions, one's inner contact with the world. One must not expect or be premature in wanting things to materialize because our hastiness usually delay things. So I haven't read the complete thing, but that was the one. I mean, there's more, but it's very interesting how she says that, there's a very subtle difference between intensity and impatience, because somehow it goes, in my mind, it goes together. That if there's intensity, it will be like when, right? But to have that intensity and yet that groundedness, that things will, take its course. So it's, and even I think in a lot of Kabir dohas, it's said like, sometimes Kabir is saying that, run, don't waste this life. And the other one, he's saying that, whenever the rain will come, then only the flowers will bloom. So now relax. Once your hair relaxed, it was really nice. The second one right after this is live in eternity. It says, it's again connected to what I think Captain had shared, that in human consciousness, everything is very slow. When we compare the time that is necessary to realize something with the average length of human existence, it seems interminable. But happily, there comes a time when one escapes this notion, when one begins to feel no longer according to human measures. As soon as one is truly in touch with the psychic, one loses this kind of narrowness and of agony, because this agony is so, which is so bad. I must be quick. I must be quick. There is not much time. I must hurry. There is not much time. One does things very badly or doesn't do them at all anymore. But as soon as there is a contact with the psychic, then indeed this disappears. One begins to be little more vast and calm and peaceful and to live in eternity. Josna ji, in the circle, in the harmony circle, you had shared something on this line. So when I was reading it, I was reminded. And just the last one, is it becoming too heavy or should I go on?
Go ahead, read.
Yeah, because it's very small. So the last one is time is a friend or enemy. So mother says it depends on how you look at it. Everything depends on the relation you have with it. If you take it as a friend, it becomes a friend. If you take it as an enemy, it becomes your enemy. But that's not what you are asking. What you're asking is how one feels when it is an enemy and how when it is a friend. Well, when you become impatient and tell yourself, oh, I must succeed in doing this, and why don't I succeed in doing it? And when you don't succeed immediately in doing it and fall into despair, then it's your enemy. But when you tell yourself, it's all right, I didn't succeed this time, I shall succeed next time, and I'm sure one day or another I shall do it, then it becomes your friend. I think,
Beautiful.
yeah, we all need this reminder, I think, very constantly. And for me, I think once I was introduced to mother's prayers and meditation is when I understood this more, that, it's the way is like that. Like, this is not a fall. This is a way. This is not a rise. This is a way. So, yeah, that was just something that.
It is very true, Taru. Actually, you will be grounded. Yeah. Whenever the impatience comes, no, my experience is like that. Again, grounded, again, grounded. Yeah. It always happens. Yeah. It's true.
Because, somehow this is also, I mean, I feel this is also a play of the negative, forces that because it always wants to demotivate you.
Yeah.
Like people around you do all the time as well. Like if you
Mm.
let them, "Okay, this is where you are, you still have anger. What's wrong with you?" kind of a thing. But in addition to that, this
Yeah.
feeling that, I'm not doing anything, I'm not progressing, I still have this.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know where there was a talk by Dr. Debashish there was the course going on by Namha. In his talk, he had mentioned that, every time I tell myself that, okay, I don't remember what exactly he said, but say if I say I'm stupid, that's me injuring myself.
Yeah.
We don't see that, right? Like if I say I'm still not able to do this, or I haven't reached where I wanted to reach,
Yeah.
that's me kind of inflicting an injury on myself. And we don't see that. We feel that will motivate me, right? Rather, but doesn't work. Yeah. So I think I'm done from my side. If there's anything we can share it. And
It's been a lovely session.
yeah. Okay then. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Josnaji. Yeah. Thank you.